All right. Good morning, everybody. I am Joanne Johnson, Executive Director for the Oconee County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I'm really excited about this morning's Zoom interview. It's actually not an interview, sort of, kind of. We are doing a webinar with Bill Bliss of Bliss and Associates, and I'm tickled about this because we're talking about leading through crisis, and I don't know anything that can be more timely than what Bill's getting ready to talk about. So let's go ahead. It's 10 o'clock. Let's just go ahead and get right on into it. Bill, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Joanne. How are you?
I am wonderful. What I'm going to do is turn my audio and video off because I want people to be able to focus just on you and this amazing information that you're getting ready to give us. Is that okay with you?
That's fine. Thank you.
All right, here we go.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to hear some of this information. There'll be a time for questions towards the end. So if you do have questions, I just invite you to write them down so you don't forget. And when we open up the lines later on, I'm happy to answer whatever I can. So leading through crisis. You don't need me to tell you that we are definitely going through some unprecedented times right now. The COVID-19 thing is one thing, but then here locally, particularly in Seneca, add the tornado that we had last week, just about a week ago, and we are having that combination. We are really in unprecedented times. So I think a lot of us are attempting to define the new normal. We're wondering if things will return to normal one day. And quite frankly, I don't think they'll ever return exactly to what we once knew. Think about things like the impact that social distancing is having and how companies will likely reconfigure their office spaces to allow for social distancing. Look at, I'm curious as to whether or not we'll ever get back to being comfortable having handshakes with people that we don't know. And how important is that in leadership and in making deals and running business and things like that. So there's a whole lot that we just don't know. And I think if anybody says that they know exactly when we're going to come out of this, what the economic impact is going to be, and things like that, I'm not sure that I put a lot of credence in that, quite frankly. And what we do know is that we can't manage out of this crisis. We need to lead, and leading is about facing the current reality and applying focused action to address that reality. So that's what I mean by we have to lead. And solutions that we've relied on in the past will likely not serve us going forward. So the things that got us to where we are usually aren't going to help us get to that next level. And clearly, this is requiring us to get to that next level. But I do know that this, and remember this, and this is a quote paraphrasing from a very popular book that was written way back in the late 1930s. And one of the lines there said, "In every crisis or failure lies the seed of a greater opportunity." So for you, each one of us right here attending, what is that greater opportunity for you? Do you know what that is? I'd really urge you to think that through. So what we're going to cover here are some practical ways to maneuver through times of difficulty and adversity. We're going to talk about battling distractions during times of crisis and stress. I know that many people are having many more distractions. And so that's a current reality. We're going to talk about how to address some of those and how to move through those. And we're going to talk about adopting some successful thinking habits to think your way through any crisis. And it really requires a different kind of thinking. And we're going to talk through that. Now, what I will say here is that this is just a glimpse of a recent 4-session webinar mastermind Zoom conference call I did with a number of CEOs who run some pretty sizable organizations. So you're getting a little taste of this. So our first topic here, maneuvering through times of difficulty. And my first point here is that your perspective really matters. And I think really we need to consider who we're getting our information from. And trust me, I'm not becoming political in this next statement, but what I do know, particularly in these times, is that both the media and politicians have agendas. And if we're relying on our perspective from those who have agendas, then we're not getting unbiased information. It's very biased according to their agenda. I used to think that going to the, now I'll skip that. That is more of a political comment, so I'll skip that. How we view things determines how we do things. So if you are generally optimistic and you know that there's going to be an outcome, a good outcome, a positive outcome, then that's likely how you're going to think and how you're going to plan your day and what kind of action you're going to take. If you're generally pessimistic, then you're going to think of worst case scenario. You're going to think of, oh, I can't do anything. And then you're likely going to get stuck. So how we view things really does determine how we do things. In times of crisis, it reveals the internal character of the leader. So crises don't necessarily form character. They reveal what's already inside. The number one priority in both good times and bad times for any leader is to put the people first, put their people first. In this case, the safety of their people. Another point, all of us are smarter than one of us. You need your team around you to give you perspective. If you don't have a team, tap into some people you know and trust. Again, all of us are smarter than one of us, and you have to tap into other people who are smarter than you, that have an unbiased agenda to form your perspective. And finally here, maneuvering through difficult or times of difficulty and adversity. Most of us really don't expect a leader to have all the answers, do we? Because in reality, none of us do. Think of any leader you know today, they don't have all the answers. Yet we do expect the leader to be authentic, to be genuine, to be real, to show us that they're going through the same things we're going through. As a matter of fact, when I gave this to those 6 or 8 CEOs, one of the things that came out from them is that all of them said, you know, I thought I was in this by myself, but now hearing the rest of you, I realize that you others are going through the exact same thing I am. So be authentic. So some questions you can ask yourself to help you maneuver. How are you viewing the facts in the crisis, and what impact do those facts have on your thinking? What parts of your character do you want others to see as you maneuver through this crisis? Who is on your team to give you perspective? And do you need to think about either replacing or adding people on your team, or coming up with just a different team to give you perspective just through this crisis? On a scale of 1 to 10, how authentic have you been these last couple of weeks? So just some reflective questions. And I'm happy to send these to anybody who would like it. Just talk to me at the end or ask Joanne, and we'll make sure that you can get these. Next topic is distractions. As I said earlier, I think that everybody right now is having a greater degree of distractions. They're dealing with distractions. And what I've realized is that the word distraction is really the opposite of traction. So what does traction mean? Having traction enables us to pull forward, and distraction actually pulls us backward. Traction allows us to stay on course, and distraction pulls us off course. So there are three major types of distraction. The first one is mind wandering. And this is thinking about what could happen instead of focusing on what is happening. This takes us off course. As I said earlier, one of the responsibilities of a leader is to define current reality. And this would be thinking about what could happen instead of focusing on what is, I'm sorry. So defining current reality is focusing on what is happening. Mind wandering takes us off that. It takes us to the thought about the kind of the what if scenarios. The negative thinking is the second kind of distraction. And that's feeling as if everything that could go wrong is going wrong. We commonly know that as Murphy's Law. But did you know that Murphy had a cousin? And Murphy's cousin's name was O'Malley, and O'Malley had a corollary, and O'Malley's corollary says that Murphy was an optimist. The third type is uncertain anxiety. The fear of the unknown amplifies other fears. I think in the first few weeks of this coronavirus pandemic, the fear about COVID-19 seemed to be spreading faster than the virus itself. If you question that, then think about, as you shop in grocery stores, the availability of things like toilet paper and paper towels. Plan each day based on what you know, and plan each day to stay on course with your original goals. Many of the goals can still happen, but distractions take us away from implementing the actions that we need to reach those goals. And finally, this is a great time to work on learning and growing yourself, particularly if you have extra time. Don't allow distractions to take up that time. Instead, pick up a new skill, go deeper into a skill that you have. It's a great time for learning and growing. So I hope if you have any questions, you're writing them down, and we'll be talking about those in a couple of minutes. So some questions you can ask yourself. Which distractions do I identify with the most? The mind wandering, the negative thinking, or the uncertain anxiety? What's one practical thing I can do to maintain the traction of my original goals? One thing. And what can I learn from a leader who I respect, who doesn't seem to allow distractions to impact him or her to the level that they're impacting us? What part of their toolkit can I adopt? So, some questions for you there. Next, we're going to talk about some successful thinking habits. And this is really important. Many people think they think, but in reality, we don't. Many of us don't think that much. And instead, we rely on what we've always been doing, and that's habit. So certain studies will say that 93, 95, 97% of our thinking time, when we say we're thinking, is really devoted to rethinking old things based on old ingrained habits. So the greatest gap between successful and unsuccessful people is how they think. Successful people always believe that there is at least one answer to every problem, every situation. And I think during these times, we have to be flexible and adaptable. Create not just a plan B, which is always a good thing to have, but in these times, having a plan C, a plan D, and maybe even a plan E would be to your benefit, because as you learn new things, you're going to learn that plan A or plan B isn't going to quite work, and then is not the time to do some rethinking about the plans. How will this crisis make you better? How will it make us better? Will you learn something? Will you grow? Will you be able to learn some better habits of focusing and staying with traction? How can I use this crisis to help other people? Think of the tornado that we had last week and how people are really stepping up to help one another. There are reports about that. Even in our own church, we have sent out dozens and dozens and dozens of people to homes in the area to help with the cleanup. And how can we really help other people? That's what we're here to do, particularly as a leader. And what actions can I take to improve my situation or the situation of those on my team? So if you get into these thinking habits and you get into thinking about options that you have, and there's all kinds of creative things that are going to happen. And what I know is that during times of crisis, creativity really seems to shine during those times. So, Joanne, let's come back in, and if I can ask you back in, and let's invite some questions from people.
Excellent. So, thank you.
Is the best way to do that to ask them to write something on the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
The chat is open if they are wanting to ask anything. This was really good information, Bill. And it's, thinking positively, looking for the silver lining. And you're absolutely right, because we are seeing so many people give, particularly with the tornado on top of the pandemic. And I know yes. You mentioned your church, my church as well, and they gave out 10,000 meals in the last couple of days. Yeah. And it, as has everybody. I mean, everyone is pitching in. And I've talked with so many other people about how interesting it is to see these relationships forming that are deeper and richer than maybe they would have been before. And we know that people who go through traumatic events together are forever bonded in a way that is unexplainable, really.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Well said indeed.
Yeah. If there's one takeaway, the biggest thing that you could say today, what would that takeaway be?
I think in the current situation, the thing that has most people off track are distractions. I think that whether it's the mind wandering, whether it's the negative thinking, whether it's the uncertain anxiety thinking, those kinds of things, we just get into patterns of taking those thoughts and creating other thoughts and creating other thoughts, and pretty soon it's a downward spiral. And at a certain point in time, you say to yourself, what have I been doing for the past 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour? And that's time that you'll never get back. So having that realization, having that new awareness can then prompt you, hopefully, to say, okay, well, what's the best use of the next 10 minutes of my time? What's the best use of the next hour of my time? Can I go help somebody? Can I go learn something that I don't know that will help me in the days ahead? I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Because truly, the best medicine is to bless somebody when you feel like you need a blessing. Yes.
Yes. And it sounds like we're both people of faith, and I believe that, God, one of the reasons God has us go through some challenges is it's so that we can experience the challenge, experience our own growth, and then be able to use that experience to help others going forward.
Absolutely. And what you said, speaking to your point about negative self-speak, what I always tell people that follow me is, to work on the positive self-speak. We truly become who we tell ourselves that we are. And the world has a way of beating us down. So we have to come and remind ourselves of how perfectly imperfect that we are. And that we're made exactly the way that we're meant to be made. And we are given the skills, abilities, and talents to work on the mission that the Lord has placed on us. And so we have to remind ourselves, look, you look in the mirror and Joel Osteen cracked me up one day. He's like telling himself in the mirror how fabulous he is from the top of his head. And he just goes on, I'm not going to get into that really, but it was just kind of cute. But we got to be our own best friend and understand that, no, we're not perfect. None of us are perfect, but we're perfectly imperfect. And we all have things that we can do to help other people. And we have to stop allowing those negative thoughts to dictate who we are and what we're capable of doing.
That's right. That's right. So let me just put up one more slide here for those who may be interested in taking some next steps. As I said in the beginning, this has been just a glimpse of a more detailed session I recently gave for 6 of those CEOs. And if you'd like a similar experience and have these 4 mastermind sessions delivered by Zoom by me, you can do so. Just write me, and I'm happy to start up some groups. And it would probably be no more than 6, so that we ensure a really good interactive kind of give and take and back and forth. So, and we go in depth on these and other topics regarding leading through crisis. And you can just reach out to me either directly or through Joanne to learn more information about it. So.
Wonderful. I'm back. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Bill, thank you for doing that. I know that's really going to help a lot of people, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to speak with us. I know everybody is going in 100 different directions right now, and we're all trying to figure out not only how to keep our lights on in many respects, but how to keep the lights on in our business, and how to continue to bring money in, and how to move forward. So this is really great. I really appreciate it.
Good. One final thing, Joanne, just as you say that, I'm reminded to encourage everybody to realize that one of the best things you can do is focus on what is in your control versus what's not in your control. So Joanne, you just mentioned about, we're trying to figure out ways to keep our business going. There are ways that are certainly within your control that you can do that. So don't worry about what you can impact, the things that are outside your control. That's where distraction is going to take over and take you off course. Do some creative thinking about what you can do to keep the lights on in your business and keep your employees engaged. So,
absolutely. Thank you again. And
my pleasure.
You guys, we will, tomorrow we've got Amanda Brock from Oconee County. She's going to give an update on everything that's happening with the county. We have got the Director of Governmental Affairs for the Unemployment Office. He will be Wednesday. I'll be sending that out soon. We thank you, Bill. Again, lots of great information coming. We will continue to bring you the most up-to-date information as we can. If you need me, again, go to OconeeChamberSC.com. My email is director@OconeeChamberSC.com. And the number to the office is, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not there anyway. Call my cell phone, 864-985-8020. God bless you and stay healthy and well. And until next time, we'll see you then.